Hello folks, welcome to Corner Play. I'm Mark.
And I'm Randy.
Corner Play is a series of videos where we help you learn games so you can quickly get them to the table. This first episode, we're taking a look at Ophir.
Ophir is a game of pick up and deliver and set collection in an ancient, prosperous world. In the game, you play as an influential person of government, trade, or religion with a singular focus, and that is the construction of a beautiful new temple. Ophir is produced by Terra Games. It plays 2 to 4 players, ages 13 and up, in about 45 minutes.
Great. Well, let's get to the setup. So the board is divided into 3 quadrants. You have the market and the temple market. You have the map where you'll be sailing around picking up goods. And you have the temple. The temple is where you'll be delivering all the precious metals to build your temple and also purchase additional cargo holds. Each player will start off by picking a ship card. Each player receives a player ship map for their corresponding ship. There's 2 sides to this. The back side has a nice reference guide to lead you through your turn until you get more used to how the game plays. You're also given a ship token, an influence dice, which fits here nicely in your ship, and a favor token. We'll talk about favor tokens in a bit. But for now, we will take our dice and everyone rolls to see who the first player is. The largest dice roll will be the first player. Then all players take the dice, their influence dice, and reset it back to 1 for the start of the game. Next up, you're going to take your 7 setup map tokens and without looking, randomly place them on the board in the different hexagons. Then the starting player gets to choose where to place the barriers. These barriers are placed in such a manner that every hex must have 2 entry points. So in this instance, this would work, but you cannot place them like this. But it is up to the first player to decide where they live. Then the map selection tokens are turned over to see where all our different materials and temple and market lie. So in this case, the temple is here, and we place its token. And we find the market and place its token. Then all players put their ships at the starting position in the temple. Then all the goods are placed in the hexes for easy access throughout the game. As well as the precious metals. So the map area of the board should mimic this after setup.
The rightmost third of the board represents the temple area, and initially you see the platform on which you'll be building the levels. Gather the various temple tiers and put them near this section of the board. On the temple platform and on each of the tiers, you'll see numbers representing the cost of gold and silver for that level. The costs increase as the levels go up. If you're playing with fewer than 4 players, look at the back of the tiles to see special instructions for those numbers of players. For example, if you're playing with 2 or 3 players, start with the initial level of the temple, the 3-1 level, already placed on the board. Additionally, if you're playing with only 2 players, find the level right below the roof, the 7-4 level, and remove it from the game entirely. The objective in Ophir is to collect the most victory points, and those points are represented by these cards. Separate the victory point cards into their 4 denominations: 1s, 2s, 5s, and the most coveted, 10s. The last item to set up in the temple area will be the cargo holds. These are rectangular pieces that have 1 cargo hold on one side and 2 on the other. There are 4 of these. Place them all in a pile in the lower right-hand corner of the temple area.
Now, the furthest left of the board is the market area. This is where you'll have your merchants and your temple market. So first thing you're going to do is take your commodities cards, the A and B deck, and you're going to shuffle the A deck and then independently shuffle the B deck. From the A deck, you're going to take 5 cards and remove them from the game. The A deck will then go on top of the B deck and will occupy the market deck space. Then you're going to take the top 3 cards from the deck and populate the market booths. The temple merchant token is then randomly placed on one of the booths, and however you randomly place it is up to you. You can use dice or drop it or whatever suits you. Then you'll take your market modifiers, flip them over, randomize them as much as possible, and then place them randomly below the booths. Then lastly, you'll take the coins and place them to the side of the board or across the top. We generally like to put them across the top for easy access for everyone in the game.
Before you turn over the commodity cards in the marketplace, the last step of the setup is to allow each player to choose a specialist card. Specialist cards serve 3 key functions in the game. First, they give each player a unique skill described in the center of the card. Learning to exploit that skill will improve your chance of success in the game. Next, they allow you to keep track of the amount of favor you have, with the default starting amount of favor being indicated by the red circle along the bottom track. Lastly, they assign the player a specialist good to the right of the name. That good can always be exchanged in the marketplace for 1 coin per good of that type. There are 8 specialist cards. Randomly select a number of cards equal to the number of players plus 1. So if you're playing with 4 players, choose 5. Give those cards to the person on the starting player's right. Let him look at them and choose a specialist for himself. He should then give the remaining cards to the person on his right and allow selection to continue around the table counterclockwise until the last person who gets to choose will be the starting player who gets to choose from the remaining 2 cards. Once everybody has selected a specialist, each person should put his favor marker on the position on the track with the red circle. Finally, turn over each of the commodity cards in the market, including the top card of the deck, which is called the future market. Although this card cannot be traded for directly, it does give you a preview of upcoming opportunities. Play can now begin.
All right, game objective. Obviously, in this game, it's all about victory points. So you're taking your goods and precious metals and trading them for victory points and building the temple. The game ends when either the temple is complete or you run out of commodity cards for the market. All right, let's look at a turn overview. So the first phase of your turn is always movement. So in this instance, we're going to be yellow, and we have the option to either move 2 spaces or anchor here at the temple. And the way you anchor is that you use favor. So again, across the specialist card at the bottom, you'll find your favor. And if you have at least 1 favor available, then you could pay that to stay here and then do a temple action. But we're going to move. So we can move 1 to 2 hexes. We're going to move to the rubies, and then we're going to move to the precious metals. So that would end our movement phase. However, if we were going to try to move somewhere else that had a player that already occupied it, so if we move back here to the rubies, and we decide that we want to move to the market, then we have to check influence. So we're going to try to do that. We look at green, and green's influence dice is at a 4. So we would have to roll a 4 or more to occupy the space with green. Now, if we fail to do that, then we have to move back to the rubies, which would end our movement phase, but then green would have to take its influence of 4 and move it down to 3, showing that it defeated us or stopped us from moving into this spot. Now, another thing about movement is these barriers. So you can't move through barriers. You have to navigate around them. You can't move through them unless you have a specialist of some sort that gives you special abilities. Those are definitely some niceties about having some of these specialists, is they have a lot of things you can do throughout the game. But in general, you're navigating around barriers. You're not moving through them. There are several other options while moving. Let's take a look at a few others. You also have the option of moving just a single hex. So you could just move from here to the cloth hex and call it good on your movement phase, and then you could go right to action. Now you might be asking what happens if you try to move through a space that has 2 or more ships already occupying it. Well, you still roll your influence dice like always, but you're going to roll against the highest valued ship. Now, if 2 ships have the same value, let's say that blue and white have an influence value of 5 and your yellow ship is moving in. Well, then you're going to roll, and if you fail that roll, then both blue and white would have to reduce their influence dice from 5 to 4 if you fail. But if you roll a 6, then you move into the space and share it with everyone. You have the ability to use favor instead of influence when trying to move through or occupy a space with another player. So again, we're going back to yellow, and we're going to try to get to the blue hex with the stone. So in this particular example, we're going to move here, and instead of looking at blue's influence, which is 3, we don't even care because we're going to spend one of our favors to move into this spot with blue, and we move our favor from 2 to 1.
If during the navigation phase you have attempted movement but failed both of your influence rolls and are still in the hex where you started your turn, then your turn ends and play continues with the person on your left. If on the other hand you have successfully moved to another hex or have used favor to anchor in the hex where you originally started your turn, then your turn continues with the action phase. The actions you're allowed to take are determined by the hex in which you're located. If you are located in one of the hexes with the basic goods, and those goods are cloth, wood, stone, and gems, then you are allowed to, but not required to, take one good of that type and place it in your cargo hold. If your cargo hold is already full, then you can throw one of your existing goods overboard to make room for the new good type. If you are located in the hex that sells precious metals, you can purchase gold and silver. Unlike the hexes that provide basic goods where you can obtain one good per turn for free, in the metals hex you can purchase up to 2 items as long as you have sufficient funds and space in your cargo hold. Keep in mind that both gold and silver take 2 spaces in your cargo hold. Gold and silver can be purchased with either coins or favor. The cost in coins will be determined by the current level of the temple being built. The cost in favor will always be 5 favor for gold and 3 favor for silver. If you are located in the hex with the marketplace, then you have the opportunity to trade in goods for coins. While you're in the market hex, there are 2 ways of exchanging goods for coins. The first is by performing a market trade. You do this by identifying one of the commodity cards, taking the goods shown on that card from your cargo hold and returning them to the supply, and then receiving the number of coins shown at the bottom of the card adjusted by the market modifier. In this case, I could take 2 stones from my cargo hold, return them to the supply, and receive 3 coins minus 1 for a total of 2 coins. After performing a market trade, remove the rightmost card from the game, shift the remaining cards 1 space to the right, and turn over the top card of the deck to show a new future market. You can perform 1 market trade per turn. You also have the option of turning in specialist goods. Most specialists have a good shown by their name. In this case, the money changer has cloth as her specialist good. This player can receive 1 coin for each cloth piece they turn in. If they turn in 3 cloth pieces, they will receive 3 coins. You can exchange specialist goods on the same turn you perform a market trade. If you exchange specialist goods without performing a market trade, do not cycle the commodity cards. If you are located in the hex with a temple, then there are 3 actions you can take. The first type of action you can take while you're in the temple hex is to contribute precious metals to the construction of the temple. You do this by taking gold and silver pieces from your cargo hold and placing them in the gray shaded rectangles on each temple tier. For each silver you contribute, you receive 5 victory points. For each gold you contribute, you receive 10. You can do this with up to 2 pieces of metal per turn. If, while you're contributing metal, you fill in the third shaded rectangle on a tier, immediately remove all pieces of metal from that tier, put the next tier in place, and continue contributing metal pieces on the new tier. Note that the new tier in this case shows that the cost of purchasing gold bars in the metal hex has gone from 3 to 4 coins, and the cost of purchasing silver has gone from 1 to 2 coins. The second type of action you can perform while you're in the temple hex is to expand your cargo hold. You can do this by spending 2 coins to purchase a cargo piece, which you will then add to your player mat so that you have a total of 3 cargo holds. You can do this once per turn. However, in future turns you have the option of returning to the temple hex, spending 2 more coins to flip this cargo piece so that you now have a maximum of 4 cargo holds. The third type of action you can take while you're in the temple hex is to perform a temple donation. Instead of contributing gold or silver, this involves contributing the basic goods shown on the commodity card directly beneath the temple merchant in the market area. Instead of receiving coins, you will receive victory points and favor shown by the number at the top of the card. This number is not affected by the market modifier. So in this case, it would involve me taking 1 gem from my cargo hold, returning it to the supply, and in exchange receiving 1 victory point and 1 favor. You can perform 1 temple donation per turn. Don't forget, whenever you do a temple donation, cycle the commodity cards to the right, just like you do after a market trade. You can perform all 3 types of temple actions in a single turn in any order you choose. So, for example, you could contribute a precious metal to the construction of the temple to get victory points, contribute a good as a temple donation to get additional victory points and favor, and then spend 2 coins to increase the size of your cargo hold to the max. It's a good strategy to make your trips to the temple hex as efficient as possible.
And so the game ends when the temple is completely built or you run out of commodity cards.
At this point in time, additional victory points are distributed to those players who still have precious metals in their cargo holds. 3 points for every silver, 5 points for every gold. Players calculate the number of victory points they have, and the person with the most victory points wins. If there's a tie, the person with the most favor wins. If there's still a tie, the person with the most coins wins. And if there's still a tie, the person with the most basic goods wins.
Exactly. Well, folks, we hope this video guide has helped you get the game to the table much faster. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.